My name is Paul Hellyer. I was a former Canadian politician, member of 3 administrations, former Minister of National Defence, rose to the rank of Deputy Prime Minister in the Trudeau administration.
Where were you on 9/11, and share with us some of your observations about how the world has hinged on this event and some of your concerns about the policies that have been put in place after 9/11.
Well, I think I was in my office, and one of the staff members heard something on radio, and we said, well, let's turn on the TV and see what we can find out. And we did, and we watched, as most people did, terrible events unfold minute by minute. And you have that feeling of sick horror, sort of, you know, this has got to be some kind of surrealism, can't be real. But the longer the day went on, the more evidence there was that this was no joke. This was a real thing, and that it was just so awful that it was beyond description. And so I was one of the people who just felt, well, like most of the world, and certainly most Canadians, deep grief, and shared the loss of the people who had lost friends and loved ones as a result of the attack. And I did many of the things that other people did. I went to a special church service and signed a book and did, you know, the things that I felt were appropriate to the circumstances.
There were many Canadians who died.
Pardon me?
There were many Canadians who died too, as well.
Yes, absolutely, yes. This was not obvious at the time. This came later when the statistics and the names started being made public. And so my attitude never changed about that aspect of things. But I think what did change over time were the consequences. When President Bush decided to declare war on terrorism, he said, war on terrorism is a terrible thing, but this is a police problem, an intelligence problem. What was wrong with your intelligence? Why didn't you know this was going to happen? You spend billions and billions with spooks all over the world, and surely you should have known what was going on. And so I began to be concerned about that. And then questions were raised by others. Why did the president just sit in the schoolroom when he heard the news? Why did he not acknowledge that he already knew what was going on? As a former Minister of National Defence, the news came out, why did airplanes fly around for an hour and a half without interceptors being scrambled from Andrews, is it Andrews, right next to the Capitol? Take them, you know, with a quick reaction alert. They should have been in the air in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. If not, as a Minister of National Defence, which in the United States, the Secretary of Defence, I would want to say, why not?
Does it disturb you, or do you have concerns about your neighbors to the south that there's been no inquiry at the defense level relative to this specific failure to scramble jets?
I think the inquiry has been very shallow and superficial, and I would like to see a much tougher, more in-depth inquiry. The evidence is that some people were allowed to fly out of the United States after the attack, when American citizens were not allowed to fly in. And Canadians had the pleasure, I guess in a sense, of their company, tens of thousands, several tens of thousands of them in Canada for a few days, especially in Newfoundland, where the people were most gracious in looking after them. But why were some members of the bin Laden family allowed to fly out of the United States? And, you know, they're just, why? And there's so many questions that you say, what is going wrong here? Or was there something going wrong? How much did they actually know? And you get into very deep territory, because it's the same kind of thing as we saw with Pearl Harbor. Did the president know, or didn't he know? I don't know. But it's a very good question.
And there's some evidence to suggest he may have.
There's some evidence to suggest that he may have, and that it was a deliberate decision on his part to let the attack happen because he wanted to get the United States into World War II. And otherwise it was going to be difficult to get congressional approval.
So you can understand why perhaps people are asking the same question about President Bush and the Bush administration?
Absolutely. I think it's a fair question. I don't know what the answer is, but I would like to ask the questions, or I would like to see someone in a position of authority ask those questions and insist on getting answers, at least as to why some of the things happened that seem to be, for an ordinary person, inexplicable.
Seems like, one more question, it seems like there's a fundamental lack of accountability and transparency, especially now in the wake of 9/11. Does that concern you when you look to what's happening in America with the Patriot Act and the projected American military power?
Oh, very, very much so. I'm very disturbed about the lack of transparency. Everybody talks about it, and no one is willing to come clean, as it were. I just had lunch, interestingly enough, with the designer of the Avro Arrow, which was canceled more than 40 years ago, and one of the things we were discussing were the lies that people in government and the Air Force told at the time. And I guess this makes me all the more suspicious. If they lie about that, what else are they lying about? And so we were agreeing that you have to get behind the superficial and the spin and try and get at the truth, and sometimes it's very difficult, takes a lot of time, but we have to try and get the truth, because unless we do, as the good book says, seek ye the truth because the truth will set you free. And I think that's what we've got to try to do, and I hope that somebody has the courage and the persistence to keep at it until we can get it.
Thank you very much.
Not at all.